I met with Garrison after he wrote the book on the track of the assassins, which became the basis of Oliver Stone's movie JFK. And in the first version of it, he had almost none of the international connections, and we and a few others gave him some more material, and he redid it to include more background on Clay Shaw. But had Jim Garrison had access to the Bloomfield files, he might have been able to convict Shaw, because it was clear that people like the FBI agent we talked about who was in New Orleans.
Bannister?
Yeah, Bannister. That Bannister was in regular meetings with Shaw. That David Ferry was in meetings with Shaw. The cast of characters, including the guy who testified, Russo, the insurance executive who testified and then changed his testimony after he was threatened by Walter Sheridan, who was a top-level asset of this network. Walter Sheridan was hired by NBC to smear Jim Garrison. And what they did is they went around and basically told all the people who Garrison was talking to, you'd better not talk to him. You'd better not tell him what you know. And so...
okay, I get the point. So you say that the New Orleans connection of Clay Shaw goes with the connection of Bloomfield, and we found them in Europe against de Gaulle just before. It was the same network. Okay.
And what the network in Europe also intersected the OAS, the operation of the people who said that de Gaulle betrayed them in Algeria, and the Jacques Soustelle networks. And Soustelle has never really been questioned on this, I don't think, or never was questioned on it. But there's an ample evidence that Soustelle, who had been working with de Gaulle during the war, turned on him, and that Soustelle was very much a part of the same network. And again, it was not a local network. It was not a Frenchman against de Gaulle. It was international people who were against de Gaulle, just as it was an international operation against John Kennedy. These things are never small. Whenever you hear about a lone gunman or a lone assassin, if I hear someone talk about a lone assassin, I think about a banker who won't give you a loan. But the idea that there are individuals who can orchestrate these kinds of complex operations, including the getaway and so on, it's just not true. It doesn't happen. And that's why you have to look at the higher levels. And that brings up the real final question. Who benefits? Who benefits from these things? Who benefited from the Kennedy assassination? This is why I brought up what Eisenhower said about the military-industrial complex. That's not just defense contractors. That includes bankers and insurance companies. It includes the contractors who go in and rebuild countries after they're destroyed in war. In the Iraq War, that includes the people who were hired to do a job they never did. They just stole billions of dollars from the U.S. government, supposedly to reconstruct water and power systems, which they never did. The military-industrial complex is who benefits from the constant fight between Ukraine and Russia. The people who want to see NATO spend more money. They want countries in Europe to have to spend more. Now, Trump is doing that because he wants to break up NATO. But the people who are pushing it are the ones who benefit from these things. And that's why they want wars. And that's why Trump's decision to pull troops out of Syria and Afghanistan and to try and resolve the Ukraine situation is a threat to them. And one of the things that we said a long time ago is that had Kennedy been more open in talking about who was threatening him, they might not have been able to kill him. That if you say, look, if something happens to me, here's who to look for. You name your assassin.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Protection.
I agree with you. Many people at the highest level don't have this reaction to name things and to expose it to the public. It's a good protection, in my opinion. It goes in the media with this,
it's a great protection because you're basically saying to someone, if you kill me, I've already told people you're the one who's going to do it.
Yeah,
and that's why Trump is still alive, because he's willing to name the names. And who does he name? He goes to the Clinton networks, the Obama crowd, and the Bush crowd. Remember, he won the presidency by destroying the Bush machine in the Republican Party. And so I think it's important for people to realize that if you want to protect a president, or if Zelensky, for example, wants to survive, he's got to name the Pravi Sector, the Azov Battalion, the neo-Nazis as the ones who are coming to get him, because they are coming after him. They're threatening him.
The problem is to openly talk about things, and this is the problem of the day.
And someone has to say to Adam Schiff, you're threatening the life of President Zelensky by your crazy impeachment efforts against Donald Trump right now.
And if we go back with William Stephenson, it's not so far from the beginning of the WWF, the ecologist movement from the monarchy. I know that you call him the Prince of England is the husband of the Queen,
Prince
right?
Philip, yeah, Prince Philip.
Philip of Mountbatten, right?
Yes, exactly.
He created the ecological movement. But if we dig further inside, we find that it's not far from the club of the 1001 or Island Club, the Club des Îles. And among those networks, you also have assassins for the interest of those circles. It's a parallel networks with the same kind of methodology to the interest of some elite circles. Can you develop a little this Jan Fleming, this kind of...
Actually, you know who's even better on that is Jean Le Carré, the English spy novelist, who's written several books about the privatization of intelligence and the fact that you have corporations that are dictating the policies to the intelligence communities, whether it's in Africa or dealing with Russian arms merchants or so on. Because that's what it is. I mean, look, who's Prince Philip? Prince Philip is a nobody. He comes from a family of Nazi lovers from Germany. You know, two of his sisters married high-level Nazi officials.
He comes from Greece at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. And
they married Nazi officials in Germany.
Okay.
Because the Mountbatten it's Greek, but it's also German.
Okay.
Now, Prince Philip is the right person to look at because he once said that the biggest problem facing the world is overpopulation. And he said at a speech to an insurance company in Switzerland, if I could be reincarnated, I'd like to come back as a deadly disease so I could help deal with the problem of overpopulation.
He said this?
He said that, yes.
Okay.
Well, Bertrand Russell, the great philosopher, said the same thing. Russell said that wars have been inefficient at reducing population, but a good plague every generation or so would do the job. And he said it might not be pleasant, but it would allow others to then procreate freely. Okay. So you have, this is the old Parson Malthus, the Malthusian view that population is the problem. And why do they think that? Well, they think there are scarce resources and they want to control the resources. That's what an imperial power is all about. And what Mr. LaRouche has always taught is that the resources of the world are the minds of the people, the creative capability of people to take something that for one generation is a rock and find out that it's uranium, or the hole in the ground that's producing this substance. It's not water. You're looking for water and it's oil, becomes a resource once you develop the steam engine. So it's the creative power of humanity which enables us to keep providing for a growing population. Instead, virtually all of the elites believe that the world is overpopulated, but they couldn't convince people of that. So what are they saying now? They're saying human society is heating up the planet and we're causing climate change. And they have this completely phony theory about carbon dioxide. Now, and why are they saying this? Well, you've probably heard Greta Thunberg and others say people shouldn't have children because there are too many people. Well, that's just wrong. But the Club of 1001, or the Club of Rome is another one of these, or the Project 2030, they're all based on the idea that we have to deindustrialize and reduce population. And someone like John Kennedy did not support that. Trump doesn't go along with it. You know, I have no idea what Macron thinks about these things. but I know that there's in France, you still have, it may be deteriorating, but you still have an infrastructure and an industrial economy. In the United States, we're losing it very rapidly.
We are losing it really rapidly in France because of Sarkozy, Hollande, Macron, who are mandated to do such.
That's
and,
right.
That's
and Merkel's destroying the German economy by going anti-nuclear, anti-coal, anti-fossil fuel, anti-auto. Now you have farmers demonstrating all over Europe because they're being blamed for climate change because they have cattle or modern farming methods. So it's the same fight that there's always been, an oligarchic elite trying to impose their power over the masses of the population. And they use psychological warfare and brainwashing to do it. And that's why the cover-up of the Kennedy assassination is so important.